Hello, fellow meditators. Welcome to Transcendental Conversations with Calm the Bleep Down. I am Michael Beckemeyer.
And I am Brad, the balding Ewok.
The balding Ewok.
Yes.
In a former life.
Yes. I mean, still sort of.
Yeah.
If you ask, what was it? The new AI that's out, who the balding Ewok is?
Yeah. Oh, it knows? Does it really? That's funny.
It knows.
Yeah. Does it know who Philip Krantz is?
Probably not, but I don't know. Well, I didn't try it out.
Yeah.
It seems to know who everyone is and what they do.
Yeah. Well, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Oh.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is mindfulness?
It is making your mind full by meditating and filling it up.
I don't think that's not it. Somebody didn't do their homework.
Damn it!
Of course, if there was going to be one of us that didn't do their homework, I'm sure everyone could have predicted it. It would be you.
You assume everyone knows me so well.
Well, I know you.
Yeah.
I know you well enough for the rest of them.
Okay. So,
I've paid the price, Brad. I've paid the price.
okay.
So mindfulness is...
I wasn't ready out the gate.
You weren't ready for a pop quiz, hot shot. No, mindfulness is it's kind of hard to say but one of the things that does happen is we talk about mindfulness. It's become like a buzzword. It's kind of like it's part of the vernacular or the lexicon of our current times. And mindfulness, everybody's like, yeah, mindfulness. You're right, I should be. But they don't really. We don't really ever talk about it a whole lot. Like it can get easily brushed over. But mindful is like being aware of what's happening here and now in the present moment.
It's like another word for awareness.
Yeah, awareness or consciousness.
I think it's awareness in the present moment. Being mindful of using your senses and your brain and being mindful of the now. Yeah,
so if you like need to be more mindful of this or more mindful of that, it just basically means developing awareness. And mindfulness helps you ground yourself in this present moment. So when we're meditating, we're breathing in and we're breathing out and we're concentrating on our breath coming in and we're concentrating on our breath leaving our body. We're paying attention to the sensations in our body and how we feel in that point in time and that place in time. And then our mind starts to wander and then we go, oh, my mind wandered. And we bring it back to the breath where we start going back to paying attention to the breathing in and the breathing out. And a lot of times people get really frustrated over when they're meditating because their mind wanders. But the thing is, you can't practice mindfulness without your mind wandering because you have to recognize that your mind wandered and then my mind wandered. I'm going to come back to my breath. So it's actually, you shouldn't get frustrated when that happens. That means the meditation is working.
Yeah. Mindfulness with meditation is basically being recognizing that, I'm not in the state that I want to be in, or I'm in this state. You're recognizing the state you're in, or the thought, how it's affecting you, whatever. Yeah. Even with your body, because there's a, the mind. What is it? The body scan. Like when I have, because I have a, a bone disease, and I have some pains and stuff, and so I have to use mindfulness to, make sure that I'm sitting correctly with my neck and my back and my posture and all that, and make sure I'm good, because I could be a couple minutes in or a few minutes in, and if I wasn't mindful of that, then the pain will start setting in and mess with the meditation, or I'll mess something up and I will pay for having meditated because I wasn't mindful of my body. But it's also the mindfulness of recognizing the thought. And, okay, and let me get rid of that thought and come right back.
That's why it's infinitely fascinating to me that meditation, which seems simple, and it is simple. It's a simple process. It's not easy necessarily all the time, but it's a simple process. Simple is hard, easy is easy, but simple, it's hard to make something look simple. Like that's why all these like
Yeah.
athletes that just go floating up in the air, man, they make it look so easy, but that's because they've
Yeah.
worked hard to get there.
Yeah. Simple is hard because in order to keep it simple, you have to keep practicing it,
Yeah.
keep doing it to make it look easy.
But I'm infinitely like surprised, like impressed, like fascinated by the fact that all of that stuff that we like meditation is very simple, breathing in, breathing out, or concentrating on a mantra or a sound or music or something where you're just like in the moment with that thing. How that process very easily bleeds out into your life. By being mindful of your breath while you're meditating, you suddenly find when your mind is spiraling out of control at a traffic light, or when you are.
By the way, you're not meditating while you're driving.
No. But what I'm saying is, you practice mindfulness while you're
Yeah.
meditating, and then you're driving down the road, and you realize, oh, I'm like dwelling on this thing that like always pisses me off.
Yeah.
You're still hyper fixating on a thing, and then what it is your mind has wandered. Your mind has wandered down a rabbit hole that is unproductive. So then you go, oh, my mind has wandered. That's why I feel like shit
Yeah.
today. I'm gonna bring it back.
Yeah.
Bring it back to the present moment.
Yeah, that's like a concept that I've been um, talking about is like the being in a state of constant, just always meditating. Like not necessarily the closed eyes and the stuff, but just in a constant practice of the mindfulness and the awareness
Yeah.
and being able to like because I have autism and I'll be in public sometimes and I'm overwhelmed and I don't want to make a scene, so I have to be mindful. I have to be mindful all the time because I'm mindful of this. Oh, this is, and then I have to say, oh, you know what? I could feel this building up. I need to like either remove myself or do something about it. Like, oh, let me put some headphones on. The sound is gonna bother me, and if I don't do something about it, it's gonna get bad. And then a lot of times I'm in public, and especially at my doctor's office, I just close my eyes because I don't want to. Even just seeing things is getting with
You
me.
mean like dead people and stuff? Like I see dead people?
Um, sure. I mean, they're half dead and they're on their way to dead. I mean, that's what they're at the doctor's office for. Um, but it's, I guess I'm saying I've been ruminating over the idea of mindfulness always and just being in a constant state of not that you're meditating all the time, but like it's kind of just like in your it's just like right there, ready to. It's like leaving an app open so that you can more quickly go over to it.
Well, dude, that's what we were talking about when you're saying meditation or practicing meditation. Meditation is just a practice for life. You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
if you practice meditation with the breathing, by the way, it doesn't have to be meditation, but meditation is my way. It's the thing that helped me.
Yeah.
You know.
And there are all kinds of forms of meditation and definitions of meditation. So you don't have to lock yourself into,
Yeah.
well, it's not like this, so I'm not meditating. You can meditate on a thought. You can focus on something, and that's a form of meditation.
And it very easily starts to bleed out. You practice mindfulness of recognizing when your mind wanders in your meditation. Now you're driving down the road and you realize, oh, I'm still thinking about what I should have said to that guy who sent me into a rage at work today, and mindfulness helps you recognize you're about to spiral before you spiral. Oh, this thing happens all the time when I start to dwell on this one thing. So maybe I distract myself. It's unproductive for me to be like that, sort of to feel that way. I feel like shit when I feel like this. So maybe I can just find a way to stop myself. But you have to recognize it before. You have to learn to recognize it before you can stop it.
Which is being
Mindful.
in a mindful state.
And this led us to the what we've started calling, you and I, like mindfulness is everything. Like any self help book, any practice of religion or yoga or becoming a good writer,
A diet, your
a
health,
diet, exercise pattern,
exercise,
any of that stuff requires mindfulness.
your conversations with people,
Yeah.
realizing that you might be stuck on broadcast, like we
Yeah.
talked in another show, and trying to listen more. Or like me, I recently found out I had ADHD, and accepting that I stopped paying attention and I wander off because I used to think you would say to me, "Oh, we talked about this. I said this," and I would say, "No, we didn't," because
Yeah.
I when I pay attention, when I pay attention, I have this photographic mind. I can hear your voice, and I know exactly what you said,
Yeah.
and then what we think. But I had to recognize,
Yeah.
realizing that I had ADHD. I started have to be mindful of,
Yeah.
okay, when is this happening? How is it? And so I started. I had to realize that, you know what, my mind wanders, and almost every conversation or every time you're talking with me, I have to say, wait, hold on,
Yeah.
repeat that, because I catch myself that, oh,
Yeah.
you know what, I drifted off, and I don't know what he's talking about now.
That's mindfulness. Before, and we'll just use you as an example since you brought it up. Before, you weren't mindful about your mind wandering, and then your
Right.
mind was wandering. I was about to say, it's funny because I was about to say while you were talking, you only recently said, I recently discovered I had ADHD, and I was like, bitch, I knew long time ago because you
Yes,
don't
I
hear
knew I had some,
anything.
I knew I had attention issues, but I thought it was because
Attention issues, not officially, but
I thought it was because I was so smart, and then what was being said or done
I mean,
was,
you had confirmation bias.
too-
I'm just smarter than everybody. That's why.
I thought, well, this is useless information. This is too boring for me to focus on. I don't need it. But then
Yeah.
having to recognize that, oh, dude, people are saying things, and the record the record button isn't on. So I'm like 100% no, you didn't say that, or we didn't. But, yeah, you probably did.
Yeah, people are saying things.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the things people say are important every now and then. And you would say to me, well, you've said this before. I'm like, but I'm not gonna have new stories every day. We've known each other for like 30 years, but a lot of the time there's a point to the thing, and it's infuriating to me because I used to be a high school teacher. One of my triggers that I'm still getting over is the notion that I have to constantly repeat myself. I would be like, I have to repeat myself at school,
Oh my God.
and then I have to come here and have the same conversation with Brad over and over again because he claims we didn't ever talk about
Yeah.
this. I was like, you know,
Dude, that is like, you talk about triggers. I hate doing the same thing over and over again. And I have this thing where I will say something to someone once, my brain will record it. I will know we talked about that once. And then I'm okay. It's like, okay, one more time is fine. But if I have more than 2 times, I get, and being mindful that it's a trigger and that we are being triggered, and then saying, oh, you know what, using the being proactive and catching the what do you call it, being mindful in the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
Being proactive is one of the biggest habits, and what you have to do, you can't do it if you're not mindful.
Yeah.
You have to become mindful in order to catch yourself before you react. You have the stimulus of the guy, you're in traffic and whatever does the thing, and your response, if you're not, being mindful, or if you're just on autopilot, you're gonna, curse and flick them off and all of that.
Yeah.
But being mindful allows you to stop. The stimulus happens, you stop and say, hey, I feel like this, I'm gonna do this. Oh, how do I choose to react? It requires mindfulness, which just means mindfulness in everything.
Yeah, if you're listening to the show, we apologize. We're going to bring up 7 Habits of Highly Effective People all the time. We know that it's one of the biggest selling So self help
Yes.
books or personal power books. So we know we're not the keepers of that secret or anything, but it was really, that's the first one I ever read that made me think, oh, this is good. But we were talking about it a couple weeks ago, and we came to the realization, and it just came out in our conversation, that the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Awakening the Giant Within, all of those self-help books that the all of those things, think
Yeah.
and Grow Rich, they all require mindfulness to even
Every
get
yeah.
started.
Everything with self help.
Yeah,
You have to first become aware. Well, first
yeah,
think about it, and then to think about, like, well, let me start paying attention to see,
yeah,
and then you become aware, and
hmm,
then you have to be mindful
yeah.
about when it happens, and then, like, oh, what? How does it feel? What can I do about it? And all of that. It's just like mindfulness for beginning to end.
We're like predisposed in our life to see the negative. Our mind is constantly trying to calculate. It's got the mental instantaneous abacus in there, adding up all the scenarios on how this could somehow hurt us or damage us. It's the ego. It's the
Or
process of
or
the
how it'll
ego.
be a waste of time,
How it'll
or
be a
it'll
waste of
never
time.
work,
But
or
even all that's just the ego just trying to protect us. Because
yes.
way back in the day, when the world was a scarier place, when we grew up, our fucking lizard brains or whatever, the id, way deep down inside, is just pre-programmed to like try to protect us.
Yeah, it's the built-in fight, flight,
Fight and
or
flight, freeze.
freeze,
Yeah.
right? But there's also a fourth one that's shut down. Freeze is one thing, but shut down is another.
Oh,
And that might be an added-on thing because of autism and all
yeah.
that. But the defense mechanism, it's always there. Your
Yeah.
brain is always on autopilot, and that's why we talked about. I think it was the last episode about how when you're meditating, you might have just said it. See, ADHD. Um, but how even when you're meditating, the thoughts are gonna come in. You can't judge yourself on.
Yes.
It's like, let me rate how well I meditated and
Yeah.
kept thoughts away. Your brain is on autopilot,
Yeah.
and so the point of meditation and mastery and empowerment, all of that stuff, is to um, I, you could say hack or just install apps
Yeah.
in your brain so that you can start having control and not be stuck on
Yeah.
autopilot all the time.
So we are born the way we were born. Our parents were born the way they were born. Our generations and generations back were born the way they were born. And we grow up in a certain way. Our mind is predisposed to seeing the negative because our ego is always looking for ways to protect us and guard us and defend us and all that stuff. So I'm 49 years old. So what I have is 49 years of neural pathways dug
Oh
out
yeah,
in my brain that I always describe like a clay road. If somebody drives over a clay road so many times, that's the path.
yep,
If you want to go off that path, you have to make a conscious decision to go off that path, and you have to make a conscious decision to stay off that path and then forge a new path. But to do that, like when you're talking about maybe you have like an eating, where you binge eat every now and then or something, when you whatever, and you want to stop that, you have to first find out what triggers the binge or whatever it is. Like I
you.
don't want to discuss a
Well,
thing.
well, first it's like, well, do I like the
Yeah.
considering it, then triggering the
Yeah.
mindfulness in that area, and then, but also being humble and open to, is that true?
Yeah.
Because the defense mechanism is to protect you is going to say, no, 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 that's not me,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be open and humble, and then when you see it, say, okay, this is how it. Be mindful of when it happens, how you felt, what led to
Yeah.
it, all of that stuff. It's just
Yeah.
like mindfulness is more than one step. We could almost come up with steps and then
Yeah.
write a book about it and be brilliant geniuses.
But everything does start with that stimulus response.
Yeah.
Like there's something that happens and our response to it, but there's that space in between. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's an infinitesimal, like tiny little space, but with mindfulness and being aware of this stimulus causes me to respond a certain way. Past trauma, bad habits, any of that stuff. But it requires mindfulness to go, oh, I have a choice I can make. And it's inside the thing. And mindfulness just helps us grow that space between the stimulus and the response.
Yeah, and also, you can form new habits, like reprogram your brain to where it's quicker. Like you grow the distance, um, so that it's not like this immediate overwhelming reaction that you have no control over. It's more of maybe less of a distance and just more of a shrinking the power
Yeah.
of the stimulus and the response over you. Um, because the more you practice it and the more you're mindful of it and the more you uh, control your response, the quicker you can get to the thing happening and
Yeah.
responding,
Well,
to where maybe you could even uh, before. I mean, and this is the idea of proaction. Before the stimulus even happens,
yeah.
you're mindful of, oh, this is
Yeah.
probably going to happen,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to go ahead, just forgive that person, or
Because
just
because
be okay with it.
over time you have carved new neural pathways in your mind. The fastest way between 2 points is a straight
Right.
line. And once you've done the work, it's just hard though, because after 49 years, I have some pretty deeply dug in neural pathways, and so do
Yes.
you. So does everybody. So
And
it just takes time.
and it's even harder when you're, what do you call it? You're in physical stress, emotional stress, whatever. Um, there are times when it is so hard, and you will catch yourself. You're going right back to the old you and those things, and you're like, "Wait, what happened? Why am I this way?" And like, you can't be perfect all the time. You're going to mess up, but the point of mastery is, how do you deal with
Yeah.
those moments? How do you act in? How do you respond in those moments? Are you just saying forget everything, or are you trying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like mastery to me and for us, we've talked about this, is how you, the test, I guess. The test of mastery is not how you are when things are easy, but how you are and what you do when things are hard. So, and one of the things is evaluated experience. So, like, you catch yourself, you messed up, you just didn't do proaction at all, mindfulness went out the window.
Yeah, you get a lot of practice with that.
Yes. But your mastery and your mindfulness is, oh, wait, okay, that happened, I messed up. Evaluate the experience, because experience isn't the best teacher. Evaluated experience is the best teacher. So I think that is mindfulness of, okay, hold on, let me see how this happened, and then you make decisions of, okay, so if these are the things that led me to being in a state where I wasn't able to be balanced or be in control. You know, what can I do to recognize that before it happens and stop it? And I went off on it a little bit, but I
Yeah.
feel like that's all part of
Yeah, let's take a
the
break real quick, and then
mindfulness.
we'll come
Yes.
back and we'll talk about beating yourself up.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I'm a
Yeah.
master
Yeah.
at
And
that.
honestly, everybody is. Well, most of us are. So we're back, and we want to talk about beating yourself up because
Yeah, your brain is a professional at it, and what is it? I think the term in the field or that we've seen recently because of Stutz was the shadow,
yeah,
and we'll probably call it the shadow. But
Yeah.
your shadow is always saying, "Oh, yeah, well, you know what? It's probably not going to work," or "You
Yeah.
stupid idiot." I struggle with when I make a mistake. Is that you're an idiot? You're so stupid. And
the negative self-talk. One of the first lessons I got out of when I started meditating, even if because I said when I started meditating, I felt better instantly, and I don't know if it was just it was like 3 or 4 days of meditation. I was like,
Yeah.
I was starting to like
And you didn't even know how to do it
I
well,
still
or
didn't know if I was doing it right,
yeah,
and which is more evidence to the fact that there's not really a set way. I was sitting down and I was, I didn't even really realize at that time how important like having an anchor, like like your breath or something was.
right,
I was just like, am I doing this right? Am I, but one of the first like big lessons I got out of my meditations was one day I was like, okay, I'm gonna meditate on my pain, like my emotional pain, my physical, not really physical pain, but I am fraught with emotional pain. We're kind of like opposites. I have the emotional issues and you have the pain issues, which cause some of my emotional issues, honestly. Listening to you bitch about that stuff all the time is like
I,
anguish.
I am very mindful of that, and I work hard to not be the Debbie Downer or whatever the male version of that is.
Do better. No. So and it wasn't even in my meditation. I was like, I still didn't know if I was doing it right. I was basically just imagining myself zoomed in on my heart,
Yeah.
like feeling my heartbeat and stuff like that. And then I was sitting in we were administering the SAT or something at my school, something I don't
which
miss, by the way.
which also was your at the time was your greatest like stress and your drama, like this school and just everything there was like beating you up every day.
And I was just sitting there waiting on the buzzer to ring and all that stuff. Okay, put your pencils down and all that stuff. And I was reading something, and it hit me right away, like in that moment. And this was just a few weeks in. Oh, wait a second. I cause a lot of my own pain because I'm so hard on myself in places where I might let you off the hook, or like it come across 100 people. I'll let 100 people off the hook 100 different times. But any one of those things, I am going to beat myself. I'm going to drill sergeant my ass into the ground over. You know what I mean? I'm going to beat myself up over things. And then I realized that I offer compassion and love to everyone except myself. And I'm sitting there administering the SAT test at my school, Mr. TV production, doing pretending to be a teacher. And I was like, sort of bouncing off the walls. I was like, holy fucking shit. And it's obvious. It's so obvious to say, oh, yeah, I beat myself up, blah, blah, blah. But for whatever reason, something clicked into place in a different way that day. And it, but it didn't stop it. And because just recognizing is like finally shining a light on the thing, but just like recognize it. Oh yeah, I eat my feelings sometimes when I'm sad, but if you don't like catch yourself before you do the thing, before you beat yourself up, or before you stare at your reflection in the mirror in the morning while you're brushing your teeth, and you say to yourself, you're fucking fat. When are you gonna this, and why are you, when is this gonna happen? You're
Yeah.
fucking up.
Yeah, you
You
would
have
say
to,
it all the time, and I had things like that I was saying and doing all the time.
and you have to, but knowing you do it is the first step. It's almost like 12 steps. Knowing you have a problem, admitting you have a problem is the first step,
Mm-hmm.
and but you
That,
have to then grow some space between the stimulus of whatever causes you to be that way and the response of, hey, you fucking dummy. You have to develop the mindfulness to stop yourself
yeah,
before you get there, and it's hard. So many of us do it. It's not just you.
yeah. And as you were talking, I was realizing that there's sort of like an extra level to the mindfulness. Like once you're getting good with it's like there's self mindfulness, right? And then there's like an outwardly mindfulness. In fact, when people say, well, I've heard it said that you have to love yourself first before you love other people, and to me, it sounded like narcissism or pride or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
It
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
sound right. But I feel like what it really means is you need to go in first
Yeah.
and work on that before you have the room or the capacity to um, take in and work with other people. So the upper level that I was thinking about is okay. So you realized that and you worked on that, but then how does that affect other people? When you say you're fat and all of that, how's that affecting me and your friend? Does that make them feel bad? And um, you know, I guess it's like once you work on yourself, then you should start thinking about how you affect other people. I guess was the point I'm making, because you don't want to start with how you affect other people first, because then you'll be like I was, where all I was doing is thinking about other people and not taking care of myself.
You're putting yourself down at the bottom of the list again.
Yeah, that was one of my big transformations the past couple of years, was figuring out I had autism and ADHD. But then there's this whole thing of self-care that I was thinking logically that, oh, I should be this, I should be that, I should do this. And I was just keeping myself to this standard. I was trying to be like what I considered normal. But I can't be that. My brain doesn't work that way.
And you never will be. I'm here to I've seen you try. Just stop trying. No.
Yeah, so
it's interesting.
Well, hold on. Well, becoming aware that I had the ADHD and the autism. The self-care. I had to stop. So just a quick example, and I'll wrap it up with this, was the realization that so when you have autism, there's the thing called stimming that people with autism have to do. It's like moving things or just moving your hands or
spinners and
doing this or whatever, doing something to get rid of that energy because you're getting overwhelmed and building up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let myself, it just took a couple people when I was in public once and my leg was going up and down, and it was like making noise or whatever, or I would hit the table and they said, stop that. And so I recognized that, that's annoying. Don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed it, but so the point is, I wouldn't even do it when I was alone. I was so strict with myself. When I was alone, I had to be perfect.
Yeah.
So realizing, self-care is what's necessary to manage your autism and even ADHD.
Yeah.
I had to start immediately when I had that epiphany. I was like, okay, and what do I need to do? I was just doing whatever stupid. I hated the way I looked. I was just like doing this and just whatever I thought.
Twitching,
I was just letting it all out. I thought I was looking at myself doing it, thinking, "Oh, this is so stupid," but wow, this feels good.
Stop doing that.
But that's the point I'm making, is that
don't wiggle your arms around and say this feels good.
For autistic people,
no, I know.
We have to. So I had to start saying, okay. And I did it a lot at first. Not just that, but just figuring out, okay, do this. I had to channel the energy, but also do other things. I had to switch over to stopping thinking about everyone else. And because I was like, I wanted you to be my friend, and I didn't want to piss you off and whatever, and we're doing work, and you're so stressed, and I don't want to do anything to make him not like me. Because
your perception of my level of stress, though, is also weird, because I'm not really a stressed out person.
Yeah.
But you were perceiving,
and I was also perceiving in my mind your perception of me, and that I was pushing you. You were up to here with me, and if I did one more thing,
I was, but
but the point is, I was all about the other people and not into me. So I had to self-care, mindfulness,
all that stuff you just said. Is mindfulness. And it's funny that because you were talking, about 30 minutes ago, when you started talking. I'm just kidding. No, when you were said
I'm mindful of it.
way back when you were a few minutes ago when you were talking about self-love or loving yourself. You have to love yourself before you can find somebody else to love you
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
The-
And that
Love
is
is self care.
that is true. But it always sounds so cheesy when people say it. Oh, you have to
Yes.
love
It
yourself, and
doesn't
you're like,
sound right.
shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's that, but it's also weird. We're so hard on ourselves that we somehow think we put the bar so high for ourselves
Yes.
and so low for everybody else. And really, it should be at least flipped, where it's low for us and high for everybody else, if not even.
Yeah.
But the self-love thing is it really is, you accept the love you think you deserve, that whole thing.
Accept
And
yourself for who you are, like your faults and all that, and forgive yourself. I think
Yeah.
that is key.
when they say we accept the love we think we deserve, since we're so hard on ourselves all the time, we sort of do train ourselves that we don't need anything, we don't need to expect anything. We're better, we're better than all these. Look at the ego required to think I'm better than all these people. I shouldn't be able to be let off the hook because I should do better.
Yes.
These other people, they can fuck it up if they want to, but
Yeah.
I should be doing better.
That's how I was all the time.
That-
I was unrelenting with. I have to be better. Every little mistake, I would drop something, whatever. It's like you.
Yeah,
idiot,
you'd get mad when you
how-
dropped a cup. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's like,
And I thought it was because it hurt you to bend over to pick it up, but I didn't know you were just
No.
beating yourself.
It's because, like, you stupid, you should have known. You shouldn't have put that on the edge, or you should have paid
Yeah.
attention to. I was just way too hard
Yeah.
and strict on myself
Funny.
because I was holding myself up to a perceived standard of what other people. Also, I was trying to be something I couldn't be, but also about what other people were thinking. But the truth that I came to realize is that most people are having the same kind of thing where they're thinking more about their stuff. That they're too focused on their things to be focused
Yeah.
on you and
We're
judging
all
you
too
all the
focused
time.
on ourselves. We're all
Yeah.
focused on ourselves.
So people are not always like
Yeah.
thinking and judging you and all those things. It's you. You're the one who's doing all of that.
So the self-love thing, the way I've started thinking of it, even really in this conversation, I've sort of this image in my head. When you see baseball players swinging their bat, practicing, and then they put a weight on their bat to practice swinging, so the
Right.
bat seems lighter when they swing it against a.
Yes.
So that's what taking care of yourself really is. It's like the weight you put on the bat when you're practicing love or practicing taking care of yourself. Because when somebody comes along and they're like, "Oh, I care about you," and we automatically want to not trust it or whatever, and like that's too good for me, like out of my league type conversation. But if we train ourselves to be worthy of the love we feel we deserve by practicing it ourselves, I mean, there's no other person on the planet which it's harder to receive love from than yourself, because we all fucking hate ourselves.
Yeah. I'm still working on that.
Yeah. I hate you too.
Yes, we're both working on loving you, Brad.
Well, yeah, we're both like, I'm struggling as well. The struggle is real.
Yeah, true, real.
But so it's just it's a practice and but it all requires mindfulness. Mindfulness is everything. I feel like a broken record when I say it. I say it in the podcast, in the meditations all the time, but it is true. It is true, and it's like my life has been so much better because when I do have a setback or when I do have a shitty day or a shitty week or a shitty month where I'm just like we talked about the other day, I was just like in a funk, I was feeling like I was in a funk. I knew I was in a funk because of mindfulness. Otherwise, I would have just thought, well, I always feel like this. Yeah. But I know, like I can recognize it, but the mindfulness of being able to recognize it and seeing it, and then also having something, okay, what's the mindfulness, what's the way to dig yourself out of this, because you've practiced this over and over and over again. It's like I knew what I needed to do. I was just like, kind of stuck there for a bit,
Yeah.
and it's the way all of us do. But I've seen so many people get into their feelings, and then just stay there because it's the only thing they really know to be true is how shitty they feel all the time.
Yeah. And on that note, and hopefully wrapping up on this, is that after talking about all of that, like being within yourself and not thinking about too much other people, that it's another step to mindfulness is also like whatever your opinion is or your political view, religious view, your how you are. Okay, we all think that the things that make sense to us and how we do things, the foods we eat, how we uh, the cups we whatever I recycle. You mean whatever. We all have our little things that we're like, doesn't everybody do this? Shouldn't everybody do this? And then we think that well, if people that don't do this, it's just automatic in our brain that people who aren't like us or act like us uh, are they're wrong or there's something wrong with them. But the truth is that mindfulness extends to the what do you call it? Considering the other side, I guess. I like to always have like a balance, like look at both sides, whatever it is. Even if I'm hard on the other side, I try to always. I mean, even when we talk about people that annoy us and I've just trained myself to be like, well, it's probably because of this. I try to um, imagine what do you call it? I don't know. Be mindful of the other person, the who, what, where, when, why. You know what I mean? Mindfulness, I think it's important. You got to start with you, but then you need to stretch out your mindfulness to considering other people, so that you don't end up in an echo chamber to where you only talk with people that are will just
Yeah.
reinforce your own thoughts and opinions. I think mindfulness, in an advanced form, I guess, extends to everyone else and like the oneness, right? Maybe that's like the full expression of mindfulness is like connecting to the oneness and being like trying to be instead of being separate from the
Yeah.
person, you are in your mind. You're like, well, maybe this is why they feel that way, or that to them and the way their life and their experiences that could be true to them, even
Yeah.
though logically when I work it out, it isn't.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Just you open up to your mindfulness to other people.
Well, the Dalai Lama says, and we can wrap up. Yeah, we can wrap up. But the Dalai Lama said when I read his book way back when, The Art of Happiness, he said that it's a Buddhist philosophy that human beings have suffering. All sentient beings have suffering. It's like it is probably like the process of life is just suffering because we get attached to things and then we lose those things, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. But he said if all human beings have suffering, then that single fact alone should draw us closer together because we can identify that I hurt and you hurt. But since we're all selfish as whatever, as bleep, since we're all incredibly selfish, we have lost the mindfulness of being able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes and realize, oh, think of how much life must suck for that person.
Yeah, or what they've been
And
through.
then just get some fucking compassion. But it requires mindfulness. Because Brad, everything is mindfulness.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard me say that before or not.
Yes, I have.
Okay, good.
And speaking of mindful,
Well, then we're
I'm
done here.
mindful of the time.
How long have we been talking? So that's it for this time. Don't forget to, if you want to contribute to our Patreon, where you can have all kinds of perks and stuff, just go to our
Yes.
website.
And if you want to get like we're into this mindfulness and meditations, we have meditation classes.
And we're working on a workshop. We're going to do a free workshop soon.
Yes.
We're not sure of the date yet, but we are going to let everybody know when that happens.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a weekend somewhere. So ctbdmeditation.com, where you can find out all our stuff. Follow us on social media.
Click all the buttons.
Click all the buttons. And that's it for this time. We'll see you again next time on
Well,
Calm the bleep down. Transcendental Conversations.
yes, where you can
You want me to say it?
transform.
Transforming your life one breath at a time.